The goal of Wax Studios, I've never played that track for anybody else in the world. It's an interesting question and one I've not been asked, but I do have perspective, so I'll share it with you. Yeah, what can we say to the players who haven't discovered it yet? What are you waiting for? That's what I would say. Come on in. It's really great. It's a ton of fun. Electronic Arts, Disney, Take-Two, Midway, Capcom, THQ. A lot of
I would like to welcome everyone on behalf of NFT Horizon. I'm Kamil, and I'll be your host during this interview. And we have one and only Michael Rubinelli of Wax Studio with us. So, Michael, how are you feeling? How are you today?
I'm feeling great. It's only 3 p.m. for me. It's not midnight where you are. So I've actually rested. I'm raring to go. I can't wait to have this interview. The weekend's about to start. So a lot of good things happening in my part of the world. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much. We're a little bit in the dark at the moment, but it's really good to see you shining all bright with the sunlight.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, so we can just quickly begin with our first question. So could you please tell us a little bit about your background and your history in Wax blockchain and Wax Studio and in the gaming industry, of course?
Yeah, so I've been doing this for quite a while. Like my entire adult life has been filled with making games. And so I've worked at a lot of really kind of wonderful companies: Electronic Arts, Disney, Take-Two, Midway, Capcom, THQ, a lot of companies that you may have heard of. And I've worked on, a lot of games, some uniquely American games like John Madden football and NHL hockey, but also some big international hits. I've worked on Mortal Kombat. I've worked on NBA Jam. I've worked on Marvel titles. I've worked on Street Fighter titles. And so I've been really lucky. I joke with people, at some point, somebody's going to figure out I don't know what I'm doing, what I'm talking about. And I'm stealing money from all these people getting to make games all day, but they keep letting me do it. So I continue to do it. It doesn't really feel like a job. It feels like a blessing and a vacation all at the same time. So that's my background, and it's all, it's a gift, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're of course right. As the saying goes, do something you love and it won't be a business.
It's true. It's really, really true. And, I think where I'm concerned, the thing that I do, because I am such an avid gamer myself, is that whenever I build content, I don't sit there and go, okay, how can I monetize people like me? Or how can I, do things that, keep people really kind of engaged, but not in a healthy way? I sit there and go, how can I reward people for their choice to spend time or spend money in my game? I take a very player-centric approach, if you will, to the things that I put into the market, because I'm a player and a consumer of content as well. And so my default position is I always say, how does this benefit the player, and make sure that that's clear. And that's part of the decision-making matrix, so to speak.
Yeah, you're of course right. Like empathy would be the crux of this matter, indeed.
For sure.
Yeah,
I'm very empathetic. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, it shows. It truly shows. And then, which brings kind of the next question and point. What can we say about the main vision and the goal of this Wax Studio? And can we say that it's bringing the Wax ecosystem into more spotlight, or to set an example for the sustainable economy? Or is it like launching a product at a point that offers real entertainment to people? Or is it all a mix of these?
Yeah, I think the question is it's not a mix per se as the goal. The goal of Wax Studios, as with regards to play to earn gaming, is I really believe that, in kind of 3 to maybe 4 years, but hopefully 3 or maybe even 2 years, that no game comes out in this world, whether it's on mobile, desktop, console, what have you. No game comes out that doesn't have some sort of, blockchain gaming element to it. The power of blockchain gaming and what it does, and why I think it matters, and why I think it's going to be around forever, and why it's going to change the way games are played, is because what it really ultimately does is it allows you to take the things that you do in the game, the things that you earn, the things that drop for you, the things that you craft, the achievements you kind of garner or collect. Like, it allows you to take those things out of the game, and then you can give them to friends, which makes you feel good as a player. You can sell them, which makes you kind of have a validation and the monetizing of your time. Like, I think that is such a very, very valuable thing. I played, it really kind of hit home for me. I played World of Warcraft for many, many years, like 6, 7 years. raiding on Tuesday nights and Saturday nights. And gosh, I hope it's my turn to get, the Sword of 1,000 Crews and all those things, right? And then when I decided to stop playing the game, I walked away and I'm like, what do I have to show for that? Like nothing other than my memories, which, get a little bit more faded every day. I think with play to earn gaming, or pay to earn gaming, and the whole notion of what we call a player-to-player economy is so unbelievably powerful, right? I did this, I got this, I used it, I don't need it anymore, but somebody else does. Somebody who is maybe trails me by 2 months or 2 years or 2 weeks, they probably need this. They probably don't want to grind for it. So therefore I can put it up on an auction site, or I can put it up on an e-commerce site and I can sell it to them. Great, fantastic, let's go. So I think that's a really, really powerful thing. Now what happens, right? If we make sure that the world progresses towards that model for players where they can monetize their rewards, is the Wax blockchain will get all the accolades that it deserves. The Wax brand will be thought of very, very differently. But there's all these byproducts of us pushing towards making sure that blockchain gaming or a portion of that business model makes its way into mainstream gaming. It was a great question. I gave you a very long answer, but it was a very complicated question at the same time. So
it was crystal clear, and it was very excellent explanation for all all that I was asking. Thank you so much. So we can say that like blockchain brawlers will be a pioneering force in validation of the gamers' efforts in playing with these video games. And which brings us to the next question. The first game of the Wax Studio, Blockchain Brawlers, recently met with players, and we can say that it attracted a great deal of attention. And so what can we say for those that still hadn't had the chance to meet with the game? Can we mention a little some of the points, like what kind of a game is Blockchain Brawlers, and what kind of a gameplay does it have?
Yeah, what can we say to the players who haven't discovered it yet? What are you waiting for? That's what I would say. Come on in. It's really great. It's a ton of fun. The thing I'll say that's really interesting that I don't think people have an appreciation for, because a lot of times we play games, like when we play games on our mobile phone, right? We play for 2 to 4 to 5 minutes at a time. Maybe if you're playing a MOBA like Mobile Legends or Arena of Heroes or something like that, you're maybe playing for 13 to 15 minutes. Wild Rift is a little bit of a longer play experience, but for the most part, when you play a mobile game, you're largely playing by yourself, and that's all well and good because it scratches that itch. Like, oh, I just want to play a couple levels of Candy Crush. I just want to do this or do that, whatever. The appeal, one of the things that's really appealing about Blockchain Brawlers is our community on Discord and on Telegram and on Twitter is super active and super engaging and feels very collegial or very familial, if you will, right? Like we feel like one big happy family. We're always trying to help each other out. So there's this whole aspect of what is appealing about the game is something that actually lives outside of the game, which is, I think a lot of people are like, no, is the game fun or not? Yeah, the game's fun, but also so is engaging with the community. Like they're really fun. They're smart. They're interesting. They post great memes. They tell great stories. They talk about theory crafting. There's all these things that happen in the community around the game. And people share that common, like people from all over the world that you don't know and you've never met, they want to know what you want to know, or they want to ask you your opinion or something. Like this is a really engrossing part that I don't think that any of us, when we started off, thought that this would happen. I think you hope that it happens, but you never know that it will. So more specifically to Blockchain Brawlers, let's talk about what it is today versus where it's going. So what it is today is it's a really kind of straightforward gamification of decentralized finance, or DeFi. And there's a lot of games out there that are this, right? You can look at, Office Land and Warspace and, Arena of Glory and all these games that are very similar. But what we are relative to those games is we're a much more polished version of that, where we think better ROI, we think we have better tokenomics, we think we have better onboarding, better user experience, better user journey. And so what we said is, and look, we've only been out for 2 weeks, right? But what we've said is every single day we're going to get better, and we're going to slowly over time, be on this arc and this trajectory towards building a real game with real PvP and, guilds and factions and land wars and daily competitions and all these things. It's going to feel very much like an experience you're playing now on your mobile device or on your console, but it's going to be done on a browser. It's going to have blockchain. So we've told people to come in, play the game, understand what we have today, but look at the roadmap, right? Look where we're going. We've published a really robust kind of 12-month roadmap. So it's like, okay, when is PvP going to happen? It's going to happen in Q3. And when are you going to have, tag team matches? And when are you going to have the battle for the heavyweight belt? And when are you going to bring in pay-per-view? And when are you going to do this? And when you do, it's all laid out in the roadmap. And so if you like kind of a gamification of DeFi, come play now. It's a ton of fun. ROIs are really, really good. It's super simple to use. The price point's a little high to get started, but the ROI is pretty quick. It's between 6 and 30 days ROI if you believe the calculators that the community has made, not me. We don't ever look at it as a security, but the players who say, how long does it take for me to recoup my investment? They'll tell you it's really aggressive and it's really interesting in that regard. I look at it more of where's the fun and where's the gameplay and what am I doing to add to that? And so we're very much building those features every single day. And so, like I said, depends on when you kind of on-ramp into blockchain brawlers, you're going to get a little bit more game every single week. And all of a sudden you're going to wake up 3 months later, like, holy cow, this is so different in just 3 months time. I mean, we built this game in 3 months and now you give me 3 more months and then 3 more months and 3 more months. We're going to go to really fun and really interesting places. So that's what blockchain brawlers is kind of today. And that's where it wants to go.
Yeah, it's all about the extrapolation, like roadmap is super important in that aspect. And it's really important that you're establishing a community and it really brings this organic aspect to the gaming community that, as we have mentioned, the validation of their efforts while gaming, since the mobile gaming is becoming all the rage, especially. And then I would like to ask, like currently, we as you have mentioned, we see different like click-based farming cycle structure in various games, like as you have mentioned, War Space and Farmer's World. And how can we say that blockchain brawlers especially differentiate from these games and the other ones available, especially in terms of economic structure and like the growth structure?
I think the thing that I would look at if I were comparing us to Farmer's World or War Space is that, you know, look, building a balanced economy is really, really hard. Like it's really hard to do. And we do it with just, you know, literally one fungible token and one non-fungible token. That's all we have. And we think that's about as complicated as we want to be because we know the things that are easy to understand are easy to use. If you look at, you know, War Space, if you look at Farmers World, they have 3, 4, they have multiple currencies, right? They're trying to educate people on the value of them. They're trying to educate how they work. And players are trying to figure out, okay, what's the value of this? Where do I invest? How do I put my time in here? How do I put my time in there? And on and on and on. It can be really not quite so clear about kind of the tension of the relationship between all those different currencies. Ours is real simple. You brawl with you brawl and you earn the brawl token and maybe a gold NFT drops. And that's it. And because it is so simple to understand, then it's really simple to use. And so what has happened, the byproduct of this from an economic structure standpoint, is that we have this unbelievably stable token. Like the token just plots right along, doesn't really go up too high, doesn't go down too high. And that token stability matters because players are trying to work with and forecast predictability of earnings, right? And so again, the things that we do are, you know, we just announced our fourth exchange that's carrying the token. So we have Alcor, we have Wabi, we have OKX, now we have this new one called Gates. Like they're all three, I think, top 20 exchanges in the world. And, you know, OKX is like the number 2 exchange in China. Wabi is like number 7 in China. It's like big, large amounts of trading volume are going to generate token security. We've also put currency into the swap pool for people who like to use the swap function on mobile to generate the currency. They don't like to use the order book, right? They don't used to do limit sales or purchases. And so everything that we've done relative to those other 2 games is really leaning in to the stability of the token side. Like NFT prices are going to go up and down. And guess what? We actually don't control that. The market does. The players do. Like we sold 750 packs of NFTs and a few auctions of one-of-one legendaries. We sold like 1,000 when we had 30,000 people in our Discord. They're like, why don't you sell 30,000 packs? Like, because we need a secondary market economy to exist. Like you as a player, you craft something, you can sell it. Like, holy cow. Wax isn't selling too much inventory. Wax is selling too little inventory. So me, the player, if I create inventory, it'll have value because it's desirable. Oh, I get. So see, there's this real kind of alignment of risk. So again, think about it this way. You're a player. You jump into an NFT game. They try to sell 100,000 NFTs. They say, hey, guess what? On day 1, we'll have 100,000 players. Like, great. That sounds like a really healthy, active game. Okay. Now in the game I'm playing, I've created an NFT. Well, who wants to buy it? Well, it doesn't matter because the developer has sold all the NFTs that need to be sold. We actually sold way less than NFTs that need to be sold. So the players understand they're the producer, right? We will win if players can craft and sell their items continually. Like that's where we make our money. So once the players, they had that light bulb moment, like, you know, that light bulb went off in their minds, like, oh my gosh, Wax is at risk. they may lose a ton of money if they don't get more players in. And to get more players in, most companies will sell an NFT pack, but they didn't. What Wax needs to do is make sure that we, as players, sell NFT content. So there's that alignment, right? There's that risk reward. So they know that we have their backs, and that makes them feel really, really good. And so what our players out there doing is they're out there playing, they're earning the brawl, they're getting gold drops, they're taking those assets, they're crafting materials, they're throwing them on the secondary market. They're selling as soon as they hit the market, which means we've got every single NFT that sells means one more new player coming in. That's helping them recoup their investment, and on and on. Like, it's just really wonderful kind of economic virtuous cycle that we built that no other game has built, as far as I can tell, in terms of when I look at how they launched versus how we launched. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course it does.
Great.
It really like brings into light the signification of the player's position in this blockchain market, and especially in the gaming aspect, in a sense. So I will also like to like give an example from the Splinterlands, whom we are also partners with. Like, we see that there are games, skill and strategy based games. They can be one step ahead in terms of maybe gameplay, and they are not only like focusing on earnings, or also like in a social sense, and like how the gaming industry works today. For example, a player may buy a legendary brawler or a skin style NFT just to feel premium, just for the sake of it, and this expands the value proposition scale of the game. And I guess in a sense, it also makes the economy more sustainable. Can we mention that there will be such structures for blockchain brawlers, or like creating a premium feeling on the community is among one of your goals?
I think in everything that we do, so this is, it's an interesting question, and one I've not been asked, but I do have a perspective, so I'll share it with you. Is that when I came into the industry just a few months ago, like, I always believe in working at the margin of my ability. So I like to do things I don't know how to do, because that's how I feel like I grow and I learn. So I went through this drill in 2010 when free-to-play gaming became a thing. I was a console disc-based person. We sold into retail. You track sales at all the big retailers in the world, and you understood kind of how that economic model worked. And then when free-to-play came in, it was really, initially I thought, oh, I'm not gonna be able to figure this out because I don't know this model. I don't know these players. I don't understand fast failing. I don't understand. But once you learn that, you're like, okay, now I get it and I understand the power of it. So I've been building games a certain way with a certain mindset for a long period of time. And one of the things that I do, like when just like I did on the free-to-play space, is I came into the blockchain space and I said, okay, I'm going to play Arena of Glory and Office Land and Dragon Valley and, probably, 8 or 10 different kind of, pay to earn games, Alien World and Farmer's World and on and on and on, and Farmer's Tales. And you try to understand kind of where the players have come from, right? So you have that player perspective, you have that sensitivity. You have, with the good and the bad, you understand when they say something, this is really what they mean, and kind of reading between the lines is how we kind of take these experiences. So the thing that I said is when we build a game at Wax, right, it's going to be a lot of things, but the one thing it's not going to do is it's not going to confuse people. So the user journey is going to feel premium, right? We're going to have really beautiful assets. We are going to utilize resource nodes that are super responsive. We're not going to get failed to fetch errors. We're not going to have crash bugs. We're not going to have missing tooltips. We're not going to have text that doesn't make sense. Everything is going to be so unbelievably clear from an onboarding, usability, and utility standpoint that people will feel like it's a much more polished, much more robust game, just because using it is such a wonderful and responsive experience, right? And so that, some people will say, oh, that's a premium experience. Oh, that's what, but in my mind, I will tell you, I think that's just great game development. Like, that's how I see the world. That's how I always see the world is, I don't want to waste your time trying to confuse you. I don't want to frustrate you. I want to show you the path. I want to show you the aspiration. I want to show you how you play the core loop. And I want it to feel so natural to you. Like, if you say, lots of players on mobile, one of the things we added this week was we added a brawl all button, right? And so if you had a legendary ring before on mobile, you've got this little window and you're scrolling brawl, 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 and then heal, slide, heal, slide, heal, slide, heal. It was literally like 24 to 32 actions. And now on mobile, which is how a lot of like more than half our audience is on an Android or iOS, you click the all brawl, heal all, it's 2 clicks and you're completely done. and it's really responsive. It saves you time. It saves you, like, again, that level of thoughtfulness is very intentional, right? That's because we care. And so when you talk about things that are premium experiences and is that the kind of standard, the Mercedes-Benz, if you will, of play-to-earn gaming, that's very much our intention. So every single thing that we do, every single feature we put out, everything, is going to be done with that in mind. Like in the next 3 weeks, we're going to have the ability to name your in-game avatar, pick an avatar image. Again, things you're used to seeing in mobile games, things you're used to seeing in kind of MMORPGs. We've got a title track, which is great. We actually have 24 other songs we're going to put into the game as well. We're also going to put in a music player in the game so you can shuffle and repeat and see the song title and on and on. So all these things are going to feel like, oh, wow, this is much more engaging, even though you're still mining a currency. And then all these, it just every single week, you're like, wow, this is growing up. This is really robust. I see how they operate because we show you how we think with the features that are in the game. There's a saying that we like to say, the money's on the screen, right? So our attention, our focus manifests itself in the features and functionality that our players get to interact with.
That's really good news. And as a music lover myself, I'm really happy to hear that you'll be adding more soundtracks.
Oh, and we have so many great. Do you want me to play a song for you right now that's not in the game?
I'd be honored.
Okay, this is a world premiere.
Oh, wow. Wow,
yeah, this is a big deal. So this is the song you're used to hearing. Okay, so that's one style. But here is something that's totally different, but we also think fits within the game. I'm going to play it right now. It starts one way and then it changes, and it's really cool. And again, I love that I get to play this for you. So listen to this. So again,
a little bit lucha libre at the beginning.
Yeah. It changes and just ebbs and flows and evolves over time. It's a really, really cool track. But imagine kind of 24 things like that are, again, part of the discovery, part of the exploration, part of the everything. We think this is going to be a really well-produced, really well-polished game that over the next kind of 12 to 18 months, we're always going to surprise and delight people. Right. Yeah. And, just like this interview, I've never played that track for anybody else in the world. I premiere here because every interview I do, I want to be different. And I want people to go, oh yeah, here he is saying the same things over again, answering the same questions the same way. Like, I want to keep it different and interesting for my players and the fans of the content that I put out there. And now your fans have got a world premiere that has not been heard anywhere else in the world. So we premiered it here. And again, there's 23 other songs that are just equally cool and fun and different too. Nothing sounds exactly the same. So yeah.
Thank you so much. It was like an amazing honoring moment for me because I cannot wait for the full soundtrack to listen to the full soundtrack because it really has a super awesome twist in the intro and the drop is just amazing, plain amazing.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And you know what's great? It's like a lot of albums that when you hear them for the first time, there's a couple songs that right away you're like, oh yeah, that's my jam.
Yes.
And then there's a couple songs that you don't like maybe right at first, but then the more you listen to them, you're like, actually, this one's really growing on me. And there's some you may not like at all. It's just not my cup of tea, whatever. But the diversity from that's kind of an old West kind of more EDM. Mm-hmm. We have very rock heavy, very bluesy, very R&B. There's like all kinds of just different feels. And it's all done by the same composer, a guy named Yoshi, who works with us. Oh. Yoshi Drops is his music brand. And he just did an absolutely incredible job. And people go, oh, I love the first song. I'm like, you love the first song. The first song's not even in my top 7 or 8 favorite songs. But I thought thematically it felt like a great kind of title track. So we put it in there. But you're going to see all kinds of new content come out in the next kind of 3, 4, 6, 8 weeks. So you go, wow, you guys at Wax are always surprising me with this thoughtful kind of player focused initiative, not just this click farm kind of thing that gets old really quickly.
I guess I can speak for all of us when I say great job, Yoshi. That's really good music. Yeah. It really fits the aesthetics of the game as well. As you have mentioned, comfort and the simplicity over the unnecessary complications is the key. I completely agree on that. And I want to ask another question. Like we know that like blockchain brawlers legendary auctions first started on Binance, and you established a bridge between it and Wax for the players to transfer these brawlers. What was the reason for this choice?
We love Binance. First of all, it's the number one chain in the world in terms of daily active users, just barely ahead of us. They do, I think they have like 650,000 to 700,000 DAUs. We have between 5 to 550. We're the two biggest chains. So we thought it only made sense that the two biggest chains kind of got together. And you know, everything that we do, by the way, you can say to anybody who works at Wax, why did you do that? And they'll tell you it was a test and we wanted to test something. So what we wanted to test is, what does an auction on starting on Binance look like relative to an auction on Wax? And then can we bridge a Binance-based NFT to have utility inside of the Wax world? And then can you then take those Wax earnings or those Wax NFTs you craft in game, then bridge them back to Binance to sell, to look and understand what liquidity is like on the Binance chain. Everything is trying to learn to figure out how to optimize around the best kind of user experience and the best thing in terms of how it performs for the player. And so Binance we had a good relationship. We wanted to test something and we wanted to pull their people into kind of a Wax-based gaming world. Binance is more of a DeFi chain and less of a gaming chain, although there are games on Binance. I would say we're more of a gaming chain, less of a DeFi chain. And so it just made sense to try to bring those two worlds together to see what we could learn. And, you know, we had an auction, one of our last items that sold on the Binance auction sold for almost $50,000. We were just like, we were blown away. We had no idea that it appealed to people that much. Because again, we didn't set the price. It was an auction. They set the price. We didn't bid one time. And nobody in our office can afford $50,000 for a legendary brawler. I mean, my Lord, we think it's a good investment, by the way, but you know, it wasn't us buying our own stuff. Like you hear all this wash trading things around kind of CryptoPunks and Bored Apes. We didn't buy any of our own content. We try to, because we try to be consumers of our technology to see how it works from a player perspective, but there's nothing kind of suspicious about our behavior in terms of how we kind of, you know, value things.
Yeah, of course. Like you also mentioned that you empathize with the player.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Trust me, I try to get on whitelists that we hold. I can't get on a single whitelist. I'm like, I'm ahead of the whole studios. I'm the chief gaming officer. Like, how do I get on a whitelist? They're like, yeah, your number didn't get called. I'm like, I know, it drives me crazy. Now, I could clearly say, put me on the whitelist and it would happen, right? Put me on the whitelist or you're fired. I could say that. I don't say that. I want to see what that's like. I want to feel the pain as well as the joy. And I'm yet to make a whitelist. So
yeah, it's both a blessing and a curse, I guess.
Very much so. Very much so.
Like Prometheus, you bring us this fire and you cannot benefit from it.
It's very true. It's very, very true.
And related also with this topic, we are also curious about, are there any future plans to make this game more multi-chain structure beside Binance and Wax? Like, do we see a chance to see an operation initiated on Avalanche, Solana, etc.?
The problem that we have so I will tell you our baseline philosophy, because we're Wax Studios and we build on the Wax blockchain, the parent company very much says, yes, we won't have other utility on those other chains. We will support liquidity on those other chains because we really want people to understand that we want you to take an asset that maybe is generated on Wax or usable on Wax and sell it wherever you're comfortable. If you want to go after Ethereum whales, great. Take your Wax NFT, bridge it over to an ERC20 token standard or an ERC21 721 standard, like whatever it wants to be. Like we want to create kind of max kind of portability, if you will. But in terms of utilization of the asset in an actual game, all those things are going to kind of live on Wax. So we say utility on Wax, liquidity outside of Wax. Like that's how we see the world. The problem you have, and I don't think a lot of players realize it, and I don't think even a lot of game companies realize it because they're not really doing their homework, is that Polygon has gone around and they've written a lot of checks to a lot of companies and said, here, support our chain. Don't worry about gas fees. Don't worry about scalability. Gas fees are killer, no doubt. Scalability, they're limited in what can scale on their chain. Like that's a real problem there. But if you write somebody a big enough check and they say, trust us, we'll fix those things. You're like, okay, for whatever, $5 million, $10 million, I'll look the other way. What's going to happen is at some point, all these games that Polygon is, and the developers that they're courting, are going to come in. There's going to be a tremendous number of DAUs on their chain. Good for you. The bad news is it's surge pricing, right? And so, your gas fees are going to go up. But here's the real rub for gamers that I don't think that they quite understand or have an appreciation for yet, is that when there is surge pricing because the chain is getting clogged with transactional kind of throughput, transactional throughput is not only defined by, you're able to be charged and the gas fees went up, but it was the conclusion or resolution of that transaction. So you buy something, in most kind of mobile games, you get it right away. On Wax, you get it right away. It's maybe a few seconds to maybe a minute or two for your NFT to be delivered to your wallet. But when there's surge pricing and you see your gas fees going up, you could be spending hours to days to wait for your transaction to complete. And if you're a gamer, and whether you're playing, FIFA, or you're playing Fortnite, or you're playing, an FPS, Valorant, what have you, like when you lose, when we as players, and maybe it's just me, I don't know, I'm super competitive. If I lose, the first thing I want to do is I want to pull out my wallet and I want to win. But it's like, where's my BFG 9000 gun? I want to blow this person's head off. Like get out my credit card or go buy my cryptocurrency, go get the NFT. It's like, okay, great. You'll have it in 3 days. Like what? No, I want it right now because I'm furious.
I'll be calmed in 3 days.
Right. In 3 days, I won't want it anymore. I'll be like, oh, I should cancel that. But it's on the blockchain. You can't cancel. You can't go back. You can't rescind your gas fees. What's done is done. And so people don't realize like the compulsion of a gamer, like you're spending because you want to advance, you want to progress. It's this very immediate, visceral thing. You're like, God, I'm angry now and this will pacify me. Or I'm elated. I want to be super elated, like whatever that is. But when there's surge pricing and the chains are clogged, and all those layer twos on Ethereum, by the way, get clogged all the time. And there's not even any volume now. Like if you look at Sunflower Farmer, which famously melted down the Polygon chain on January 6th, literally they called us right after they put out that tweet, we're shutting our game down. They literally called and said, we're going to move it to Wax. Tell us how to do that. Like Polygon's a lie, it's a scam, it's this whole thing is just terrible. We want to move it to Wax. And we said, well, Wax is C++, and you haven't, so you'd have to re-engineer the whole thing, and it's a ton of work, and it's probably going to take you months to do. It's like, yeah, you're right. We should probably figure out how to re-architect our game so it's maybe a little bit more optimized. But they realized that going on to Polygon was a huge mistake. And I think a lot of companies are going to realize that. And the other thing too is Polygon doesn't actually give you a lot of kind of integration support or UA support. They just pay you to kind of bring your content to their chain, and that's that. It's kind of this YouTube model. And it's not surprising because the guy who runs gaming at Polygon is a former head of YouTube gaming, which means he curated streamers, right? He didn't figure out how to get streamers onto the channel because that was pretty easy to do. Integrating onto a chain, driving UA, driving acquisition, driving support, driving monetization, driving sales, driving all these things is something that we at Wax, we work hand in hand or hand in glove with our developers to support. But we don't write the big checks that Polygon does. And at some point, if a Wax game was on Polygon and it didn't work, people think that's our fault. Like, no, it's Polygon's fault. Yeah, but it's a Wax game. So therefore, yeah, we're not going to do that.
That's really good to hear. That's really good to hear. And I completely agree with your points. I think your business model truly shows that you care about this project as well. And we know that like personally, you're a game, as you have mentioned at the beginning, you're an avid gamer and an NFT enthusiast. So we know that like various different projects and our projects influence many people and our future projects. And at the same time, we also learn from them and strengthen our mindset. What can you say about this projects in this field that you are most influenced and inspired by? Like this can be on-chain games or off-chain examples, like however you wish.
Oh, wow. Well, I had a really interesting experience in my life that kind of, I didn't realize at the time how it impacted me today, but it'll make sense in a moment. So Diablo 2 came out in a million years ago, and you may not even be born. I don't know how old you are, but Diablo came out a million years ago in the late 90s, and it was so unbelievably fun, and I loved it so much. And I wanted to run on nightmare difficulty. I wanted to clear all the dungeons in record time. I wanted to cast the most badass spells. I wanted to have the highest DPS output. I wanted the best of everything. And to do that, you needed, and I was a sorc, I was a sorceress. To do that, you needed the Archangel Staff of the Armageddon, right? So the way Diablo works, it's the prefix, the item, and then the suffix, right? And these people were selling them in game. They had them, they had farmed that final boss on the hardest difficulty. They had them and you could buy them from them. Okay, well, how do you buy them from them? Well, they traded in the best ring, which was +1 to all stats, was the Stone of Jordan. The SOJs, as they call them. It was +1 to all stats. It's the ring that everybody wanted because who doesn't want +1 to every stat? Because in RPGs, it's all about these small incremental gains in aggregate end up being big gains. So what was really, really interesting to happen in the marketplace is that people were selling these Archangel staffs of the Armageddon, and they would sell them not for real money, but they would sell them for Stones of Jordan. And the max Stones of Jordan you could carry in your inventory in the biggest bag was 40 at a time. Well, where do you go to get Stones of Jordan? You'd go and you'd buy them on eBay. So I had to go onto eBay, buy the Stones of Jordan, again, a secondary market, right? Had to buy them at a price. I had to accumulate 40. And then I'd meet somebody in the game. I had to hope that they didn't jump me and kill me. And because once you get killed and you got all this stuff on in your satchel, you drop all your loot, they just loot, and people certainly got jumped. Like, it was a shady transaction. And you had to be careful. I usually go in with a friend who was a really baller, like, DPS tank, who could have my back if I got killed, or rogue, they'd get assassinated because they were glass can. Like, this whole thing was like this shady digital dark alley just to get my Archangel staff of the Armageddon. So they would they would open a trade window. They'd throw the staff in there. I'd throw up my max SOJs and we'd trade, and it felt really good. That was effectively a secondary market driven transaction. But the way I had to do it was so sketchy and so suspect, and the chance to have it go really wrong with security and fraudulent kind of measures. But I felt so good as a player. I had either mined those Stones of Jordan, or that player had mined that Archangel staff of the Armageddon, and now he's selling it for real world currency. And I'm spending real world currency to pay him to get it. Like, though, to me was and I bought gold in RPGs. I've never sold gold, but I bought gold in RPGs, again, gold farming. Again, that's a secondary market transaction. That's what's happening in blockchain gaming today. But instead of the money going to a sketchy third party that I don't know, it's going to another player, which makes me feel really, really good. So when I had those kind of experiences and I saw how beneficial that was, and how, like, again, I bought gold in World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy 11 in RPGs, because how do you normally get gold? You run those daily quests, right? Like, oh, I've got to grind for the gold. My time is really valuable. And for the $5 to $10 to get 8 million gold, I'm making it up. That would take me 3.5 hours. And so I'm sitting in my mind, I'm arbitraging. What is 3 hours of my time worth? Is it worth more than $5? It is. So I'm going to buy this gold. I'm going to feel good about it because I get 3 hours of my life back. I don't have to go on these grindy quests, and I actually just get to play the game, which is what I want to do. I don't want to grind the quests. I want to run instances. I want to run raids. I want to craft. I want to prospect. I want to do all these things. I want to level up my trade skills. I don't want to grind the dailies just to get the currency. So we're now legitimizing that. Like, that's what play to earn gaming is. And if you have those experiences as a player in your life, and you understand that what was a healthy, unhealthy behavior in the game now becomes a healthy behavior in the game, and one you can monetize, it's this really freeing and liberating kind of notion. And if Wax can lead the charge in making sure those things become front and center and prevalent and very easily accessible and not frowned upon, but actually, part of the actual kind of gameplay loop, then we've won. We as a company have won. The players have won. Everybody's won. We always say, find a cause greater than yourself. And to us, validating the player's time, allowing them to monetize their time, is that cause that we align with.
It's true. It's true. It's like rendering something menial, completely menial, into something actually fun. That's really beneficial from the player's perspective. And I can completely relate to the trust issues I suffer from MMORPGs.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the language use. Oh, it's a grind. You have to go grind. They even call it, grind your daily quest. Like, grinding just sounds terrible. Yes. Games should be about delight and progression and moments of joy, and winning is a high, but losing is a low. But you're not grinding, right? Grinding is just so like, ugh. Yeah. Why do you quit? Because I spend just 3 hours a day just doing the maintenance related things. I quit Raid Shadow Legends for that reason. Like, my daily commitment to doing the things that were required just to maintain status quo weren't about progressing. It was just about maintaining that steady state. As soon as I realized that they weren't interested in how I'm spending my free time, like, they'll look at our sessions, they're 91 minutes. Yeah, your sessions should be 9 minutes. You lose me as a player, and you lose everything I've spent because you're not thinking about kind of, is this a healthy thing for me to do? So
yeah, like, even the semiotic signification of this word grind is completely off-putting, and player wants to use the game as an escape. Like it should be fun. It shouldn't be work. It should not be work.
Right.
Yeah, I completely agree. And one last question. I want to
Sure.
ask you, like, we see that you're like you're sharing the upcoming events on a monthly schedule, and you progress
Yeah.
regularly by sticking to it without delays.
Thank
This
you.
also shows that you have a very strong and professional team. And what we are wondering is, like, we know there are many medium and long-term plans on the table, but
Mhm.
what news should make us excited about for the short term, in the short term, for blockchain brawlers?
Yeah, look, I think that so I appreciate that. By the way, nobody has complimented us on the calendar. The calendar is such a source of pride for me because I always say, these people are hurt, they've been lied to, they've been stolen from, whatever. We need to build credibility. You don't know me from Adam, even though I'm saying, here's my name and here's what I've done. Trust me. You don't get trust by just saying, like, you have to earn the trust. And so the calendar was one way to earn that trust. This is what we're going to do every single day. And you can hold us to this. And we will deliver these things at the exact, like we said, we're going to go live at noon on March the 30th, noon Pacific Standard Time. And to the second, like I literally said, we're not going to remove the password from the website until it's noon on the dot. And it, like, that building credibility matters. And so the calendar is really intentional. It's really something that I put a lot of pride in, a lot of thought goes into it. And it's not always 100% perfect, but it largely is. And the only reason we would change it is we find something better that replaces it. So this month we were going to have a special pink battle tag giveaway for a pink battle tag holder. It's going to be a really rare kind of collectible thing that's only one of in the entire world. And the 155 people, we're going to have a draw. But instead, we found this better giveaway that benefited all 155 battle tag holders. So we switched to something better. In terms of what to look forward to answer your question, so the way that I lay out every single month from a kind of a sprint planning and a product development standpoint is I want to have at least one tent pole every single month once we're in active kind of post-production development. Now, there's no tent pole in April because once you go live, and we went live the last day of March, once you go live, those first 3 or 4 weeks, you're actually looking for holes in your economy. You're looking for bugs in your game that you may have missed. You're looking for exploits that may exist. You're looking for all these things that are quality of life things. There are changes that the player experience isn't great. And while you're working on that, polishing those quality of life changes, then you start doing your feature planning. And so starting in May, we're hopefully going to have one big, meaningful kind of game-related tent pole every month. So when you look at the calendar, you'll say, what's the tent pole for May? What's the tent pole for June? What's the tent pole for July? So the tent pole for May is, I think it's going to be, because the May calendar isn't done, but I think it's going to be a rent-a-brawler feature. So I can't brawl 24 hours a day. I sleep for 5 or 6 hours, maybe 8 hours, or I'm going to go away for a long weekend. I'd like to turn over my brawlers for some other, whether it's a friend of mine or it's somebody else that I'm close to in the community, or it's just a random person. I want to put my brawl up to rent. So they use it. I'm still getting value out of my currency or out of my asset that I put up there. It's not sitting idle. So whether I'm sleeping or on vacation or whatever, or maybe, I only have a common ring, but I've got 3 NFTs that I could brawl with, but I can only use one at a time because I only have 1 slot. Or I have a legendary slot ring with 8 slots, but I have 10 brawlers. I want to go ahead and mine these currencies. And so I'm going to put them up for rent. And so we're trying to figure out a really cool way that players can rent to players not in the game, because we want to use it as another way to communicate to the players like, hey, maybe the starting price is a little high for me. How can I work my way into the game? Well, you can work your way into the game by, if you go into our game, into the marketplace inside the game, and you see all these different brawlers available to rent. Rent this one for 8 hours, rent this one for 4 hours, rent this one for 2 days. Like, okay, so I can still play the game like a regular player. I'm just renting these assets, right? And then the people who put them up for rent, they get the currency earned, they get the gold drops, they get the brawl, whatever. They set the split of the revenue. But that's one of the big tent poles for May. Now, something else we may be able to pull off in May, I'm hoping, right, is that, like I said, I talked about, I think the first week of May, I believe, we are going to put in kind of an account settings kind of widget where you can pick the name of your avatar, right, and the icon associated with your avatar. The reason why we're doing that first is because what we want to start to do is we want to start to run asynchronous competitions that have leaderboards. And most games on leaderboards show a series of alphanumeric characters .wham, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, that's not very sexy. Nobody wants to look at a leaderboard with a bunch of, FS35Y and, FNG.2.wham. And like, you want to see personality, you want to see color, you want to see all these things. So if and when we get this account settings thing squared away, and you can pick your avatar and you can choose your avatar name, that is what is required to start to run tournaments in our mind, right? It's whether it's, who generated the most brawl, who won the most matches, who has the most kind of powerful assets in their wallet, like whatever that wants to be. Like we can run tournaments with really cool prizes, like we have so many rare things that we've stowed away, that we've collected in our company wallet, that when we run these tournaments, like first prize through prize number 100 are going to be really, really cool, but especially if you get first prize or second prize or third prize. But to do that, we had to do something first. So everything we do is building towards a bigger thing. So even with this rent a brawler feature, it'll be minimum functionality on day 1, but on day 21, it'll be more functionality. And then by, month 3, it'll be really, really cool. Really, like everything's going to build and grow, but we do things in steps. And so look for monthly tent poles. Look for features that are maybe not fully fleshed out on day 1, but know that we're always going to lean into them. That's kind of how we see the world. And that's what I would tell players can look forward to in the short term.
Thank you.
Including those tracks dropping in the next 2-3 weeks as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because some music listeners are going to be looking out for those, especially me.
Right. There you go.
Thank you so much for all the beautiful answers you provided, Michael. It was like amazing to have you.
Thank you.
This evening for us and this afternoon for you.
Yes, a happy Saturday morning to you. Friday afternoon for me. Listen, I'll come back anytime. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about. It was a pleasure. I appreciate you asking me to be here. It humbles me that you wanted me on your show. I was glad to do it. Thank you.
No, we are humbled. Thank you. Thank you. So we are honored. I mean, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Are there anything you would like to add? Maybe like other world premieres? I don't know.
No. We're going to do something around the whole Wax portfolio of games that we're building. We're keeping the wraps on a lot of them for now, but we've got some really cool things that are much more game oriented, much more ambitious in what they want to be, because we spent more time developing them. Blockchain Brawlers was really, ironically, it's kind of a test for us to make sure that we could build this, we could scale it, we could understand the audience. And we've learned so many great lessons from Brawlers that are going to impact other games that aren't wrestling related or aren't kind of clickbait farming kind of games. So yeah, lots of good lessons being learned that's going to impact us positively down the road.
Enthusiasts should stay tuned in, because I'm expecting great things.
No pressure, right? I hope they're great as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michael, once again.
All right, my friend.
It was really nice. Take care.